I did a video a while back about buying a PC versus a Mac and why I felt the Mac made more sense. And I got hundreds of feedbacks on that. And that's the subject of today's Idea of the Day. One of the most popular videos on my channel so far has got to be, Star Wars technically is the most popular ones, whenever I talk about Star Wars, but one of the most popular ones was when I talked about why I said clearly and definitively that if you're choosing between buying a Mac and buying a Windows PC, you should buy the Mac. And I gave a very articulate answer, and I got hundreds of comments from people who essentially tried to tear that whole argument down. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I think they were trying to compare the operating systems and say, well, which operating system was best? And one of the most recurrent observations in the comments, other than them calling me an idiot and whatnot, was that some people were saying, and first of all, let me get to the crust of it. The crust of my argument was that if you buy a Mac, you have the ability to run Mac and Windows. But if you buy a Windows PC, you can only run Windows programs. So essentially, basically, my argument was, well, let's say I give you a choice. You can go into a restaurant and they give you a menu choice. And the first menu choice is a hot dog. And the second one is a hamburger. But whenever you buy the hot dog, you get the hamburger free. So you essentially, by ordering one, you get both. But if you order the other one, you don't get the other. So that was my argument. I said, well, simply stated, if you don't know what to buy, get yourself the Mac, because you can run Windows and Mac programs. And the feedback I got was essentially, well, if you hate Windows so much, why would you want to run it on your Mac? And that took away the whole argument in and of itself. I think a lot of people didn't understand that, so that's why I want to do a clarification in this video. Now, the reason I made it very clear, at least I thought I did, that if you had to choose between one or the other, and you really were undecided, get the Mac, because you can run your Mac. And if you then decided you wanted to run Windows programs, you wouldn't have to buy a new computer. All you have to do is install Windows in a virtual PC or something they call Boot Camp. But I don't like Boot Camp. I use virtual PCs. I use Parallels and I use VMware, which let me run Windows and Mac programs at the same time in two different windows, and I can actually use my four-finger mouse touchpad to switch between whole screens of Windows versus whole screens of Mac programs at the same time simultaneously. Now, there's no legal way to do that on a Windows PC. So if you buy a Windows PC, it'll run Windows programs. So to clarify to the people who say, well, why would you want to get the Mac if you don't like Windows? Why would you want to run Windows if you hate Windows? I'm not saying I hate Windows. In fact, I still use Windows every day. I use it probably, I don't know what percentage of the day, but I use it a lot. But you can't run Mac programs on a Windows PC. And if you go and buy a Mac, you can do both. Now, a lot of the other people, they were trying to tear it apart saying, well, look at the price. The Macs are too expensive. And that's because they're looking at the top of the line Macs. Now, if you go to the Dell website and you want to buy essentially a good quality Windows PC at Dell. Now, I could probably even put a picture over here. If you go to the Dell site and you buy an all-in-one PC and you choose their top-of-the-line one, now I'm going to choose the top-of-the-line model. It's going to come with a 5400 RPM hard drive, which is really crude, by the way. It's slow. And the Macs all come with solid-state drives. At least they have an option to go to solid-state drives. And they're about the same price. And this is just an issue of Dell versus Apple, because Dell makes some low-priced machines. But if you try to buy a comparable machine, the Macs, although you can argue that they do make some that are ridiculously expensive, the typical workhorse Mac, like an iMac, is priced very conservatively next to a Dell that's very similar, and it's more upgradable. I know some people say it's not, but it is, because even if you choose the configuration tool on the Dell website, you're still stuck with that 5400 RPM drive, and it's not equipped any better than the Apple, and the Apple is a great machine. So again, it comes back to this original premise. I'm not knocking, it's not the operating system versus operating system, although I could do a video on why I prefer the Mac operating system. The point is, if you buy a Windows PC, you have the ability to run just Windows. But if you buy a Mac, an Apple, you can run both. And it runs them very well. And to the original argument some people were telling me that Apple's cost more. Now, I have to admit, if you build your own PC, you have the ability to buy and choose any individual components, and you can put together a Windows PC that is potentially better priced than, let's say, a brand name like Dell, and better equipped. But if you went into the local computer store to buy a Windows PC, you're going to probably find two different things. You're going to find real low-end garbage, and I call it garbage because it really is. It's not well made. It's slow components. They're just really lousy machines. And you got the high-end ones, which are really optimized for playing games. And I have to admit, I'm not a gamer, but if I was a gamer, I'd probably get a Windows computer. But this isn't about that. Some people could build their own computers, again, and you can get to something that's really nicely priced and nicely equipped. But again, you're not going to see the average person do that. And even if you did, and if you decided you wanted to maybe experiment with the Mac, it's really not something you could do. Apple doesn't really allow it. There's all sorts of technical barriers. So that little breakdown is the reasoning behind what's in my other video. Hopefully this clarifies it, but for all I know, this is just going to get just as many comments, mostly negative, from people, because I don't think I got any positive comments. Well, there may be a few. Well, that's today's idea of the day. All right, so that's today's idea of the day. I hope you liked it. If you visit ideaoftheday.com, you'll see a new one every day. Every day. Yeah, some of them don't suck. And don't forget to subscribe. And you can see them here every day. Brand new one. And some of my videos don't suck either.